I'm Whitney.
I'm Mindy.
And I'm Deb.
We're three best friends who love nerdy things.
Well, some people think we're nerdy, but we think we're pretty awesome.
This is our nerdiest thing.
Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to Our Nerdiest Thing. Today, we're continuing our discussion of Scythe and Sparrow by Bryn Weaver, Book 3 in the Ruinous Love Trilogy. Today, we're talking about chapters Descent through Hurdles. And before we get into it, Deb, will you please share our nerdiest cocktail?
You said hurdles like you really like them.
Hurdles.
Hurdles. Have you ever tried to do a hurdle?
No.
I was going to say, it's really fucking hard.
Absolutely not.
Besides the fact that we're both like 5'1".
There's no way.
Whitney has a hurdle kink.
It's actually a fetish. Thank you.
She loves when she accidentally Melvins herself on them. Speaking of kinks and drinks.
That was nice.
I know, right? Tonight's drink is named Mile High Margarita.
Ooh.
Just kidding. Not that kind of high. Mile High Margarita is themed after getting finger banged on a plane. And it pairs well with one bed tropes, getting your ass kicked by a phantom woman, and circus treadmills. It may cause a guy to accidentally unalive himself on a picket fence.
Oh, whoops.
That's not a sentence I ever thought I'd say.
No,
I know. Yeah. It's very good. It's got a little smoky flavor.
It's like a little smoky margarita.
Very light.
It's good.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
And we're drinking out of fancy glasses that I had left over from a
They're
holiday.
sparkly
They're
and fun.
They're very festive. I enjoy it a lot.
I would just put glitter on everything if I could. My kids.
Glitter bomb.
JJ.
Oh, God.
Who says there's not glitter on my
That's a good
vajayjay?
turn.
It is magical.
Wait, have you gotten to that part in Pucked yet where she bedazzles?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm on like the last book of the
Yeah, I was
series
gonna
at this
say.
point.
Oh, Helena Hunting?
Helena Hunting, yeah.
Well, I'll read about a glittered vajayjay.
Yeah, that's only a small part
Damn.
of the series. Well, that brings us to the Nerdy and Dirty recap, where somebody has 30 seconds to tell us what happened in this section of the book. Mindy, the wheel spoke. Mm-hmm. And it saith,
Take it away, Deb.
Deb.
It's all Deb all the time.
I know.
It's
Been a lot
It
of
was
Deb.
Whitney for a while. Someone else had to pick
Yeah.
up the reins, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, but it should be Mindy's turn next time. I'm just saying.
Let the
Mindy,
record show.
Or Whitney.
tell your wheel it is not my turn next time.
Well, I've got 30 seconds on the clock. Deb, ready, set, and a go.
Okay, Rose gets finger banged on an airplane. Fionn and Rose go to Boston, but there's only one bed in the hotel room, and Fionn acts like a little bitch. Fionn waxes poetic about what a bad guy he is. Rose gets gold starred by Lark. We do not get a Fionn POV of Sloane and Rowan's breakup. Sadly, Rose and Fionn do it a whole bunch. Back in Nebraska, Eyeball Guy tells Rose that they found douchebag truck guy's truck. It's a month later, and Rose is back at the circus with Barbara as a pet. Fionn thinks Rose is fucking someone else, but she's actually trying to kill him, and the guy Rose once dead accidentally offs himself on a white picket fence.
Yes,
Nice.
that was like perfectly 30 seconds.
I'm so proud of myself.
I could feel you panic a little bit when I gave you that 5 second.
I did. Like, it makes my heart race. That's why I try not to look at you, but then you're like, Deborah, you're done. You're done. You're done.
When I do it too, it like makes me mess up.
I know. It like throws you off.
I'm like, really? I should have just kept going.
Just ignore me.
Okay, listeners, you try to do this shit in 30 or 30
It's
seconds.
hard. It's 30
so
seconds
hard.
is not a lot
It
of
is
time.
not a lot of time.
I'm
It
like,
really
I can
isn't.
do a fact every 3 seconds. I can't.
All right. Bam, bam, bam. That's
Just
what
like
happened.
Fionn and Rose.
Yeah.
Bam, bam, bang, 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 bangity bang.
And then
over and over again.
And then we did it a lot. And that's all you get. So that brings us to our nerdiest of vocabulary. Mindy, what are you going to teach us about today?
Today we're going to go back and learn a little bit more about tarot. In these chapters, Rose does Rowan and Sloane's cards. She actually tells Fionn that when he comes back that Rowan's tower fell. She says Rowan's tower fell. I went a little deeper into the tower card, and it's very appropriate. The tower card, apropos. The tower card can represent danger, destruction, crisis, sudden change, or liberation. So it does sound very ominous, but it doesn't always mean the outcome will be negative, only that the person will be changed after a sudden and turbulent event that shifts the foundation that your life rests on. So just
that happened.
Yeah. So examples of these types of events are job loss, a relationship ending, or sudden illness, or in this case, getting your fingers
and skin sliced off by a
and,
madman.
by a cannibal. So
by a guy that's been acting like he
Had a lobotomy.
can't talk.
right,
Yeah.
For how many months? Like 6?
A long time.
Yeah. It was like 6 to 9 months.
I
Wasn't
think
it?
I think
He
it
definitely
was.
he
It was a
definitely played
lot.
the long con.
Yeah.
So depicted on the tower card is lightning striking the tower, which can symbolize a sudden awakening or epiphany or the discovery of hidden truths.
Oh.
Again, very appropriate. It can also symbolize liberation, and that could be from old habits, limited beliefs, or toxic, unhealthy situations.
He liberated something that night.
He did. The initial impact of whatever situation the tower suggests is always chaotic and unsettling, but it does make way for the opportunity of renewal and new beginnings.
Okay, who flipped my tower card last year? It has been a year.
You're
My
like, turn it back
God.
over.
Yeah.
The tower is a catalyst for change, self-reflection, and personal growth, and can lead to a more authentic self, clearer perspective, and a more fulfilling life. So you're just...
I'm just waiting.
Yeah, your life's going to be super fulfilling.
When's it going to happen, guys?
It's like, I'm done with the journey. Let's get to the destination.
Yeah.
I plateaued. Let's go.
Well, that all makes a lot of sense for Rowan
Yeah.
and what's going on in the behind the scenes, really.
But
of
it
this
does
section.
say in this section when she's pulling tarots for herself that she keeps pulling the tower too.
Yeah.
Because she tells her
Yeah.
her Granzy, is that what she calls her?
Yeah.
She's like, okay, I get
get
I'm
it.
going through a change. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm getting the message. Yeah. Well, that brings us into our favorite moment. And I can get us started with that because mine was a quick moment. That also is one of my favorite quotes. So my favorite moment in this section is at the hotel that you mentioned, Deb, in the recap. When Rose and Fionn find out they only have one bed to share, and Ivor said Fion's being a baby about it. Rose gets annoyed with him and says, just because you finger fucked me on a plane doesn't mean I want to get married, Dr. Kane. And she sees two women exit the elevator arm in arm. You tell him, badass bitch.
Part two.
Okay, that is verbatim what I wrote down. It's my favorite moment.
It's
'Cause the other
hilarious.
girl high fives her.
I love that so
They're like,
much.
don't you take it from him.
Well, and honestly, I didn't write this down, but that feels like something that you would do, that you would say, like, yeah, badass bitch, you tell him. Like, if we were at the Supernatural convention or something and walking by, like, it very much felt like a Deb interaction. And for me, I would walk by and not say anything, pretend like I didn't see it, and then be like, did you hear what that girl was telling him? Like, when we got
Or
wherever
you'd
we
be
were
like,
going.
Deb, stop talking about it so loud.
They might hear you. Yeah. But I thought that made me laugh a lot. I really enjoyed that a lot. Mindy, what was your favorite
Well, what's
moment?
funny is I actually also had that part, but oh no, there's only one bed.
Yeah.
It's my
And then-
favorite trope.
What are we going to do?
And then when that whole elevator scene. But I also had another one that I really loved, and it was when Sloane and Rose team up to tease Lark about Lachlan.
Oh, yeah.
They are relentless.
Yeah,
and
I
it's
enjoyed
just
that.
so great. It's the girlfriend banter, and I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Well, it's the first time we see Sloane say that Lachlan looks like Keanu. Too,
Yes,
which
yes.
I really love. I love that part of Leather and Lark.
And then
Yeah.
she's like, "Don't say it."
Yeah, don't ruin Keanu for me. I liked that a lot. What about least favorite moment?
I wonder if we're going to have the same one here too.
I don't know. You go
Mine
first.
was Matt Cranwell taunting Rose, and then we also find out that he put his wife in the hospital from like her little fall. It did lead to one of my favorite quotes from this section of the book, though. Matt's complaining about some crazy bitch taking his eye out, and Rose responds with, "Why are you here? Maybe you want to spread the word about how you got your ass handed to you by a phantom woman." I love it. It's so great. But him knowing that he's still abusing his wife, he's still out there. If anything, it sounds like he's gotten meaner.
I was just about to
Yeah.
say getting worse, right? Because
Right.
now she's not able to hide it out and about. She's in the hospital.
Yeah.
So
Right. And it's like he's almost been like provoked to prove something or
escalating.
Yeah.
I didn't. What about you, Min?
Mine was Rose's backstory. And I mean, I know we kind of knew that this was going on, but, you know, we knew she had a connection with domestic violence. But, I mean, she suffered it on all levels, from her watching her parents go do that, then to experiencing it herself, and then to someone she tried to save but ultimately couldn't. It just makes so much sense why she would want to be the Sparrow.
Yeah.
But it just was heartbreaking to see all that. Like, I knew there at least one of those was true, but to have it like permeate her entire childhood and life,
Yeah.
and it just is, that's
It's like she can't get away from it.
right.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question? So she says, like, I even have like this initials tattoo. I don't understand the correlation.
They didn't explain it.
They
much.
didn't really explain it, but she said it in the context of, I know what it's like to be abused and I try to help other people.
Right.
It is not explicitly explained, but what I get from it, the assumption that I'm taking from that conversation is that these are initials of somebody that she tried to help and it just didn't work out.
Oh,
She says something about like, I messed up, but we don't know what that means.
She messes up a lot.
I
It's very
mean-
funny for a book, but she does fuck up
She
a lot.
messes up quite a bit. Yeah. Well, I didn't actually pick one specific moment as my least favorite, but generally there were a lot of time jumps in this section and I really did not enjoy that. So,
Yeah, I heard the when I said, and we don't get Fion's point of view.
oh my gosh. Well, that's not even, we'll get to that. So every one of these time jumps skipped over a scene that I really would have liked to read. Right.
Yeah.
So
Right.
for example, from the end of the last chapter where they finally sleep together, Rose and Fionn finally sleep together. They start having sex, whatever. We completely skip over that awkward morning after. Right.
And like kind of the
Yeah.
building of their relationship
Yes.
too. Yeah.
Yes. I did not love that. We skip over Rose meeting Lark and Lachlan. We skip over the restaurant opening.
Oh, yeah.
We skip over, like you say, Fion's point of view, fixing Rowan's arm. We skip over Fionn and Rose returning to Nebraska from that trip to Boston. We skip over the immediate aftermath of Rose leaving Nebraska.
Right.
Like there's a bunch of time jumps that skipped stuff that I was like, oh man, I was really wanting to read that. I was looking forward to that, that specific scene.
I felt a little bit like too, where it was like 1 month later, Rose is at the circus, but it's
Right.
like, but it's okay because Fion's here to fuck her. I felt like you needed like something in there so that people
Yeah.
wouldn't be like, what do you mean 1 month later? But she's like, no, they're still fucking. It's fine.
Yeah, it skipped over every single one of those jumps was skipping something that I felt like gypped.
Right.
That we didn't
I
get.
want to hear her hilarious point of view on
I
this.
know.
Yeah.
I know.
And it's jarring because up until this point, it's been very slow and a little bit like too much information sometimes.
Right.
Like, okay, draw that out.
Yeah.
And so then it's like very jarring to go from that to,
All of a
oh,
sudden,
wait a second.
it's a whole
did
month
I
later.
miss something? Like
Yeah.
I had to go back and look. Did I skip some pages? Did I fall asleep and accidentally press my Kindle 8,000 times? I don't know.
How
Yeah.
often does that happen, Mindy?
More than it should.
Why aren't you using your Kindle remote holder thing?
That still happens.
Oh.
If I've got my finger on it and I fall asleep and it's stuck on there.
How hard are you pressing? It's not your vibrator, babe.
But yeah, so that was my least favorite moments, plural, which brings us to biggest revelation, which I will say you already touched on this, Mindy, but my biggest revelation was that Rose backstory. I called it the Rose lore, right? So we find out her father was abusive, at least to her mother, if not also to her. We find out her first boyfriend was abusive to her, that she ran away to escape that cycle as soon as she could. And we learn, we've already talked a little bit about the VR initials on her wrist. We're not 100% sure, but it definitely seems like a woman asked the Sparrow for help with an
Where's
abusive
that
partner.
story?
Right.
Yeah.
I want that story.
That Rose somehow messed it up and that person got hurt or killed. So Rose clearly is carrying a lot of guilt about whatever that situation is. That's what we can surmise from it, but we don't really know for sure.
Yeah.
But I did appreciate learning more about Rose. So what about you guys? Biggest revelation?
What was yours, Min?
I'm not sure why I didn't put this together or for some reason forgot about it. But the whole why behind Fionn being so afraid to let his dark side come out, which has just felt very like odd to me. But then basically, he's feeling pressure from his brothers to rise above it. Like he feels like he has to be different because they have the way they're dealing with it and they expect him to be.
Yeah.
But do they?
I think he thinks
he
they
thinks
do.
they do,
Yeah,
but
I
I'm
don't
not
think
sure
they
they
do.
actually do.
But I think that's where Fionn feels like his role is, I guess. And so it does make me feel a little bit more sympathetic to him, but I still think he's a whiny bitch. So I'm just really struggling to find him endearing, and I really want to.
Especially with him and the brothers, it feels kind of like that miscommunication trope where it's like, if you guys just kind of talked to each other, because I feel like Fionn definitely thinks that Lachlan and Rowan have made all these sacrifices and do these like dirty deeds, partly to support Fionn not having to live that life.
Right.
However, I think that Lachlan and Rowan would say, we thought that's what you wanted. So that's what we are supporting, what you want to do.
Right.
And if you say that's not what you want, that's great. We don't care.
Not doing any dirty deeds for him.
Right.
Right.
Honestly, a lot of the dirty deeds they do are for fun.
I think that I think Lachlan working for Leander
Is the big thing.
I think he feels like that's his responsibility somehow, or maybe Lachlan took that job or keeps that job at first to support Fionn because he was younger. Maybe they don't talk about this, but I'm like, how'd you pay for med school? Where'd that money come from?
Yeah.
You know,
It
like
must have come from
maybe
that.
Leander.
Maybe Lachlan kind of sheltered him from not having to do that.
Right. So, I mean, I get it, but it's also like, if you guys just talked
Yeah.
to each other, I think
It is funny you say
fix
that
a lot of
because I
things.
was thinking during this whole section, the whole section is just a big miscommunication trope.
Yes.
All you had to do was kiss each other. All you had to do was tell the other one not to go. All you had to do was say, no, I actually think I might be in love with you.
Yeah. Please don't go, girl.
That did not make me think of Fionn any better.
I don't know. A lot of people thought boy bands were hot. So.
Now I picture him in overalls with one strap off.
That was hot.
That was hot.
That was hot at the time.
Not anymore.
It's going to come back, I'm telling you.
I went to their concert when they were here with Backstreet Boys. And I'll tell you, if Donnie Wahlberg tells me to do something, I'm going to do it.
We saw New Kids.
Because remember, their sneakers were all bedazzled, and we were talking about how I wonder if they have a bedazzler on staff.
I bet they do.
Someone that's on the tour bus ready. Do you remember that 1995 bedazzling gun you could buy on infomercials?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm
bad.
picturing. They don't have an embroidery machine or anything. They have that handheld bedazzler.
I wanted one of those so bad.
Didn't we all, babe?
Never got it.
I just wanted rhinestones on my pockets.
I know, right? Anyway, so what was your biggest revelation?
For me, I love when authors add real history references in their fiction books.
Oh, yeah.
So, for example, we found out that the sparrow in this book is inspired by Guilia Tofana, a real-life 17th century murderer.
Ooh.
I know, it's very exciting. According to Wikipedia, Julia was an Italian professional poisoner. That's literally what her job is listed as. Julia made her mark on the world by selling a poison called aqua tofana to women who wanted to murder their husbands.
Oh.
Yeah, aqua tofana was an arsenic and belladonna-based poison that was sold as a face oil to women. And because women couldn't divorce at that time, they came to Julia to escape bad marriages, just like people do with the sparrow.
Right.
The liquid poison was tasteless and odorless, so it could be easily slipped into an unexpected person's drink. So easy. Symptoms of aqua tofana poisoning would include cold and then flu-like symptoms, followed by diarrhea and vomiting, as well as burning in the throat and in the stomach.
Sounds great.
So this poison was so potent that you had to be careful how much you gave them. You had to give it over time, because they would die after 4 drops.
Oh my God.
So drop 1 would be your cold symptoms, drop 2 would be your flu symptoms, drop 3 would be your diarrhea and vomiting, and drop 4 you die.
Wow.
So the poison would go unnoticed because it would act slowly and mimic like a progressive disease.
Right.
Yeah. So people had no idea. I don't know how they figured out this was happening.
I was just thinking, how did they do? Because they couldn't like test the food or the drinks or anything.
So some people believe that lemon juice and vinegar could act as an antidote, but it must have not worked too well because it's believed that the poison killed over 600 victims.
Oh, wow.
Julia has been coined as one of the most prolific serial killers in history due to this powerful elixir.
Wow.
I kind of love this story.
I know. Oddly enough, the idea of aqua tofana has made a comeback in recent history due to the current political climate in the United States. Did you all know this?
I did not know that.
So the MATGA movement has become popular in retaliation to the unfortunately known MAGA movement. MATGA stands for Make Aqua Tofana Great Again.
Oh, gosh.
Apparently it was trending on TikTok for quite some time. I don't know how I've not heard of this, but it started trending right after the election and reproductive rights started going away. MATGA, Make Aqua Tofana Great Again.
Wow.
I mean, necessity's the mother of invention.
I was telling Mindy, this just made me laugh earlier. Robbie and I were talking about stuff today. And I said, they want us to be the Handmaid's Tale. I said, you're going to have to beef up. And he looked at his arms and said, more? It made me laugh a lot.
Well, that's the story of how Robbie's going to be in The Handmaid's Tale and Guilia Tofana.
Yes.
Yeah. No Aqua Tofana for Robbie. He's one of the good ones, right?
Yeah, but I'm like, I guess people got very upset.
Yeah.
People in the comments, because they're like, you're talking about murdering people. Because there's one where a girl is like in her little apron and she's cleaning the house and she's making her husband a drink and it says, he'll never know. Like, it's kind of brilliant.
Like 1950s marketing.
100%.
Marketing style.
100%.
Yes.
So isn't it crazy to think in 1700 women were getting their rights taken away, and that was a really long time ago, and things should be better.
Well, yeah, we haven't.
I mean, things are better than
they are.
1700, even 1950s, but they're not. Where
we
they
have a
should be.
cure for lice now.
No pulling lice out of your Scottish boyfriend's pubic hairs like an Outlander. Yeah. But this did remind me of Outlander, because do you remember whenever, and spoiler, when she kills Dougal, she puts a concoction of belladonna together.
Yeah, I mean, I totally, as soon as you started talking about this Guilia Tofana lady, my mind went, like, I pictured Claire.
Right, yeah. And she would put stuff in people's drinks all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And people tried to do that to her too, remember?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I like kind of want to make like a t-shirt with her on it or something. I'm like,
That would be so
totally obsessed with this
awesome.
person at this point.
Yes.
It is kind of amazing. And again, like the word of mouth system, like we were talking about with this book, like how does that happen? Right? Like how do you
no
do that
social
without
media though? Like
Right.
how did people
without alerting the authorities, without
Right.
well,
Well,
because
people know to look for Sparrow at the circus. So how did they know to ask? Because there were like newspaper ads and stuff,
Right,
and so or
right.
printed ads that they weren't really newspapers back then. But you could get like this face oil. So how did women know to not put that oil on their face?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, like, good question.
Because I mean, I don't think it would kill them, but it'd probably make them pretty sick.
Yeah, I mean your
It
skin
had
absorbs
arsenic
stuff.
in it and
Yeah.
belladonna. So yeah.
That's a good question.
Well, but I mean, I guess if you're buying it from this lady, she's going to say, don't put this on your face.
Right. This is also around the time, though, that, radium was like killing people because they were using it for beauty.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, that was very informational and educational.
I love that.
Thank you so much.
Matzka.
I want a shirt that says "Make Aqua Tofana Great Again" now, with
I'm
a
on
picture of her.
Yeah.
I'm on it. Don't worry.
Yes, I will 100% pay money for that.
So let's talk about our favorite spicy scene, and I can go first. I didn't have
Whitney's
one.
pissed off.
Well, I just, this kind of goes
I'm
back.
a little pissed on this one too.
Yeah, this goes back to my time jump complaint. So I did not love the spicy scene on the airplane.
Oh, I did.
And it's because I thought about this for a while. I'm like, what is my problem with this? And I think it's because of the time jump. And I think that
You don't feel
if
their
it,
connection.
well, I like build up in my spicy scenes. That's I think that's what I enjoy in the spicy scenes.
You are
really.
a little bit of an edger.
I like the tension. I like the build up. So when the scene opens in the middle, what is it, in media res, like in the middle of the action, like literally, then
I love your proctology.
Yeah, Whitney's showing us how to do it for those of us
like
that
this.
aren't in the room.
But yeah, like I think if that chapter had started before he started finger banging her, that I would have enjoyed it a lot more. But
Right.
starting in the middle, it just takes all the tension and build up out of it, which is what I really like in those kinds of scenes. So
I will say, I think I kind of liked the suddenness of it on a different.
yeah.
But now, don't get me wrong.
On the flip
angst
side,
and
yeah.
tension are really, really great, and Bryn Weaver typically does a really good job with that.
Yeah.
But with this, I was like, it was like the second sentence of the chapter. It was like he was knuckle deep in my pussy, and I was like,
Yep.
oh, okay, we're doing this now.
Well, alrighty then. Yeah.
I'm assuming that was your favorite scene.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
My favorite spicy scene I picked because it was funny, but it was Rose offering to let that guy fuck her in the ass if he could beat her on her non-existent treadmill
Her
record.
yeah.
So hilarious. Men will do anything to stick their dicks in forbidden
100%.
places, including following a murderer back to her trailer for a treadmill competition.
Yeah. I like how she said,
I mean, he was
to
drugged.
He was.
even knit doilies. That made me laugh.
And then what I did love, though, is Fionn going, it's crocheting, which my daughter,
And I thought it was a fight club.
Yeah, my daughter is a crocheter and she gets so pissed off. And I'm like, babe, it's needles with yarn. You got to
Right.
give people a break.
Yeah.
Right. The average layperson doesn't get it.
Doesn't understand.
Did you have a favorite spicy scene, Min?
Okay, so I know that like Mile High Club finger bangs it's not. I mean, it's not vanilla necessarily, but I don't know. Is it me? Does it feel like Rose and Fionn in comparison are kind of vanilla? I really expected them to be like the kinkiest ones from the
that's
get-go. I know, but from the get-go, I expected them to be a little, and even her, she's like, I have a cum kink, and then they're like, oh, it was all over me, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like
You wanted it to be nasty.
I do. I want it to be a lot nastier. Like, do the Mile High Club, but go the extra mile.
Right.
You know, I feel like it feels vanilla to me. And by vanilla, I mean in comparison to
The other books.
Bryn
By
Weaver's
vanilla,
style.
Mindy means she's a freak.
I'm a freak in the sheets.
I have issues with doing anything or reading about also doing anything like that on a plane, because planes are just like really dirty.
But
like
when you
literally
want it. When I want it, I'm not thinking about how dirty a place is.
Oh, I am.
I'm thinking that I want to get dirty.
Yeah. Well,
Ask Mindy. She has watched me drunkenly solicit my husband for
was
sex
like,
in public.
what are we about to learn about your friendship?
Poor Mindy. It was like one of the the most
after
wasted she's
Safari.
ever seen me. Yeah. And I kept asking Brian to go very loudly to the bathroom. It got me in free somewhere because someone thought it was
Practically
funny.
in his lap.
Come do me in here.
100%.
Yes, exactly.
Oh man, that's great. Well, let's talk about our chapter MVPs, and I can start us off because my chapter MVP and favorite secondary character I did is one joint thing because I have the exact same things to say because it's Sloane and Lark. So they're both equally, both of them are MVP, both of them are secondary character together. So I just really love the immediate fondness that they have with Rose, which we talked about last section when Sloane shows up and meets Rose for the first time. Like, they're automatically friends, and we don't really see them meet, but they haven't known each other very long. We see the scene of them, I think, at the coffee shop, and they're just like having girl talk, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And I really love that Sloane and Lark have known each other for years and are very, very, very close. And they're still including Rose in the same type of conversation that they would have if she wasn't there, right? Like, they're not changing the way that they're interacting with each other just because like a newbie is there. And I thought that was really sweet. I really liked that. And one of my favorite quotes from this section is from that scene where Sloane tells Rose, like, you've been stickered, or like, you're stuck with us now.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really
Okay,
sweet.
so
I love
one
that.
of my favorite quotes of the whole section was when she says, Lark is a tit sommelier.
Yeah, if she says you got nice tits,
Then
you got
she
nice
kn-
tits.
yes.
Yeah,
She
I
knows what
enjoyed
she's
that.
talking about.
But yeah, I really enjoyed both of them and that picture of their friendship together. I
That
liked
was
that.
probably like one of the highlights of the section for me was just them in general and that whole little girl gang.
Yeah.
Who
Who's
was
your
yeah,
MVP?
who was your
I'm
MVP?
sorry.
Who was your MVP, Mandy?
Mine was actually Rose because someone has to bring something else out of Fionn. So
Besides cum.
I mean, I realize I'm on the Fionn hate train on this one. I don't know what came over me, but you know, like accepting him, darkness and all. I love when she says it's okay to love your darkness and still love yourself.
That's
it
my
doesn't
other
make you a
favorite
bad
quote.
person. It makes you a whole one.
Yeah.
And then when Fionn like comes to her rescue and cleans up that whole Chad mess, and he realizes like she's the only one that's ever thanked him for his help.
Yeah.
Like, that's a powerful thing to be grateful, and sometimes it's hard. So kudos to Rose for being grateful and accepting of Fionn, even though he's a little bitch sometimes.
Yeah, and trying to help him accept himself too.
Yeah.
Which is
I mean-
an extra step, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that's a lot. It takes a lot to recognize that in someone and to not be like, I'm not going to run, you know,
Right.
she's like, I'm not going to run away. Like,
Yeah. You don't scare me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that too.
My chapter MVP was unassuming murder weapon accessories. So cocktail sticks,
yeah.
picket fences,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
and trucks.
Which is like a large cocktail stick.
It really is.
It is. That's true.
Bren
That's
likes
true.
to stick things through people's skin.
She likes to impale.
She does. She really does. But all of those things have become like characters of this book.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
And I really love that they've been kind of personified.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the truck because I almost gave the truck a special shout out as the biggest revelation because Cranwell does tell us, and this is why Rose leaves Nebraska, right? Cranwell says, they found Eric's truck in the river and pulled the truck out of the river, which led me to my deep dive because I immediately had a lot of questions about this investigation in this book. So I'm like, okay, how'd they find the truck?
Listen to enough true crime.
I know,
that
right?
Police work is shoddy.
I'm like, well, what's going on here?
Especially in a small Nebraska town.
Exactly. So how did they find the truck but not find his body? Did they leave the windows down? So I started to just look up kind of underwater crime scene investigating basically and like how you find evidence and how the water might mess up, degrade evidence and all that. So
I'm assuming it degrades faster, right? Because of the water and the animals?
well, yes and no.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
Please
gonna
tell
teach
me.
you guys some things
Enlighten us.
today. Yeah. So let me set the stage a little bit for underwater crime scene investigating in general. So obviously you have to treat underwater investigations differently than regular on land investigations. So first of all, when they start looking underwater, even if they don't know for sure if that is a crime scene, they treat it as if automatically it is a crime scene unless proven otherwise.
Like
unless
they should
don't.
all crime scenes.
I know,
but,
right?
you know.
So, which I just thought was really interesting because I know, from where I'm from in Bardstown, the Crystal Rogers case, they've looked in different bodies of water for, evidence of her body, whatever. And it's just interesting to think of like every time they search for things like that, it is a crime scene until they don't find something. Right. So that's not necessarily always the case on land. So any potential evidence that you find underwater, whether it's an object, a weapon, or human remains, the underwater CSI encapsulates that piece of evidence right there under the water, including any debris or sediment that it's sitting on. So the evidence actually remains submerged in water because the second that it hits the air, the oxidation process will start to degrade whatever evidence it is and can prevent investigators from getting something like DNA off of it.
Wow.
So this art, I linked a couple of articles in the show notes, and one of the articles was talking about like in movies and TV, when you see an investigator like find something and then lift it up to show everybody else, they're like, that would never happen in real life because the second you bring it out of the water and into the air,
It's contaminated.
it's contaminated immediately.
Yeah.
So they have to have like special, evidence boxes or whatever. They don't just have the plastic baggies that you see on land
I'm
investigations.
just picturing them all the evidence going into a bag like a goldfish.
I know, right? Yeah. And they have to include what it's sitting on because depending on the type of water, river water movement, whatever, it can tell them a lot about how long it's been there, the different seasons that the water has gone through and like the weather and all that kind of stuff.
Temperatures and things like that.
Yeah, like it tells you a lot about what's been going on. So thinking about that in terms of Scythe and Sparrow, when the investigators are pulling Eric's truck from the river, we have to assume that the windows got blown out or left down. And I went back and looked at that scene to see if it said anything about the windows specifically, and it really doesn't, but it does talk about how the truck flipped and like hit some of the side embankment before it went into the river. So I'm going to assume that at least the windshield or something got blown out, which is why the body's not in the truck, right? They only have the truck. They haven't said anything about
I was
a body.
kind of picturing that the windows were down and either he floated out or the animals got to him.
Right. So, assuming that at least one window was blown out, when they pull the truck up to the surface and water starts emptying out like it would when you pull a vehicle out of water like that, evidence is potentially disappearing right there because it's hitting the air.
Okay.
Because they're not encapsulating the entire truck, because I'm not sure they really could, honestly,
Right.
but they're not encapsulating the entire truck underwater before they bring it up to the air. So if this, small town Nebraska police department didn't do their due diligence to get evidence from the truck before they pulled it up, they've really kind of screwed the pooch right there on their investigation, because they're degrading a lot of the evidence that we talked about when that scene happened, right? And I'm like, she was in the truck. Her fingerprints are in the truck. Her
everywhere,
vomit is in the truck. Her
So would
DNA is
they,
in the truck, right?
When they lift the truck, then would they generally have like something that would also lift a portion of the sediment from underneath it?
I don't know if they would do that all at once or if they would just do it separately. Like here's the truck
afterwards.
And here's exactly where the truck was sitting on top of. I don't know.
Because it's going to shift as soon as you move the truck.
Yeah. So maybe they got some before they moved the truck. I don't know.
I'm very interested in this.
I know, right? It was really interesting to read. So trigger here, because I'm going to talk about recovering body or remains from underwater. So skip ahead if you don't want to hear about that. So this is straight a quote from one of the articles linked in the show notes. Recovery of deceased persons in the water is among the most difficult tasks underwater crime scene investigators perform. An individual at rest in water, meaning deceased, can stay in motion. In general, after death, a body settles and travels to the bottom, and during its movement, it may encounter wind at the surface of the water and currents in the water column and at depth, which might continue to move the body. Due to post-mortem decompositional changes, gas inside the body might cause it to become buoyant and ascend to the surface, leading to additional movement after further encountering sight conditions. So after the body completes off-gassing, so releasing that gas, which we've talked about in previous episodes when we've talked about this, a final descent will occur to the lowest depth of whatever body of water it's in. Depending on how long the victim was submerged, the entire body of water and water column within it could be subject to a search. And even if drowning is suspected as the cause of death, authorities still must properly process and investigate the remains. And as with object recovery, divers recover soil samples and subsurface material underneath the body's final resting site, so whatever it's laying on. Bullets from a gunshot victim's body, for example, might have settled into the sediment after having seeped through permeable flesh due to the body's emulsification in water. So, long story short, a lot of stuff underwater can mess up the investigation when you're looking at human remains, right? Because wherever you find the body could be way far away from wherever the original dump site was or where the actual death occurred. Like, there's a lot that can mislead investigators depending on what happens with that body under the water, right? And who knows where Eric's body is, right? So in Scythe and Sparrow, we've got the windows or the windshield that are blown out or down, and Eric's body has been pulled, pushed, moved from the truck, right? So they left him in the driver's seat, and he's not there as far as we know. So who knows where his body has ended up, how long it would take investigators to find him, and whatever state his body would be in to try to get any information.
Physically and literally. Like, he could be downstream miles and miles and miles and miles away, because it's been months at this point.
It's been a long time. Yeah. So they also would have a very hard time finding DNA from a potential killer, right, on his body, depending on what happened. One of the articles talked about the sediment and like rocks in bodies of water potentially, you know, as not just human remains, but objects in general, as they move through the water, it can literally like scratch evidence away.
Right. Oh, yeah. I guess if it was hitting rocks or something like that.
Exactly.
If you have flesh in the water, it's going to get eaten.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. So time really is like of the essence in these kinds of investigations, because the water is really messing up a lot of what you would normally investigate and get a lot of information from above water.
Makes me wonder why Lachlan just didn't leave that body in the water when he recovered the car for Lark.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that. Oh, see, now I'm going to have to go back and read that. That scene with all this information.
Did they do this right?
Yeah, did he do a good job or not? So another article talked about how underwater crime scenes are so fluid. Pun intended. You see what I did there?
Good job.
I wrote ha 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 in my notes.
Well, at least you make yourself laugh.
I was proud of that. So the underwater environment changes from moment to moment and day to day. And this is a quote from one of those articles. Factors including flooding, rainfall, pollution, and even just basic water movement like in a river can all impact the underwater scene and the integrity of the evidence sought. As such, it's important dive teams are able to respond as swiftly as possible. Doing so will help them accurately locate items before environmental damage may occur. The more readily and rapidly the evidence is located and properly recovered, the more likely its forensic validity may be maintained. So in Scythe and Sparrow, we've got Eric's body, which would show the stab wound, right? You would have Rose's DNA on his body, her DNA in the back of his truck, her potential hairs, fibers from her clothes, her vomit, all on that blanket. Theoretically, that could all be inside the truck still, underwater. If sediment got into the truck while underwater and a water current moved things around, it's possible that, like I said a minute ago, that sediment could could have essentially scrubbed away some of that evidence while the truck was sitting underwater, and it could do the same thing to Eric's body, depending on how his body moved with the river current. And then one last thing that I wanted to share that I thought was really interesting was a NIH, a National Institute of Health study on how different types of water degraded DNA evidence on fabric. They did a big experiment with this, and river water was one of the water types that they included. So I was only able to see the abstract of the article because it was a PubMed thing, but this is what the abstract talked about. This is a quote from their findings. Outdoors, the results differed considerably between summer and winter, as well as between pond and river. The longest exposure time, still resulting in a complete DNA profile, was 2 weeks for a sample with skin cells in the pond during the winter. In the summer, the time period for erasing the bulk of DNA was 4 hours. Regarding epithelial samples, which is skin cell samples, more than 1 day for blood samples in the pond and river environments. And all in all, the results demonstrate DNA could still be recovered from clothes exposed to water for more than a week.
Wow. It's longer than I would have thought.
Yeah, I know, me too.
You know, I really want to know what Brynne Weaver's educational background is,
Me too.
because she does always focus a lot on like the crime scene and,
too.
you know, how to stage it and everything. But she also has another book that she wrote with Trisha Wolfe, who's been on the podcast several times, called Marrow. And the two scientists in that work for a body farm. So it's all about subjecting corpses to decomposition. And like in one point, like there's a corpse in the back of a car, like left in the heat. And how does it decompose?
Yeah.
And so I want to know,
It's a ton
is
of
she just
research.
obsessed with crime, or does she have like a forensic background? Or 'Cause she's obviously very smart. I want to know what she's educated in.
Yeah. So ultimately with Rose killing Eric, I tried to figure out exactly how long it has been, because I was getting myself confused with the at least a month, and then I was like, well, no, wait,
at least 2 months.
Well, but the 1 month was after she left, after they'd already found his truck. So I'm really not sure with all the time jumps.
Right.
They definitely have the trip to Boston, but we don't know for sure how long they were in Boston.
But also, she has to recover for at least 6 to 8 weeks, right? And she kills him pretty early.
Yeah, well, right after her cast went on.
Yeah.
I think. So, so it's like, I don't know exactly how long
6
it's
weeks,
been.
8 weeks, 3 months.
Yeah.
A month-ish. I don't know. But it's definitely long enough that I think the evidence is probably pretty degraded at this point. And depending on how good the small town Nebraska police force would be, which obviously is not, Brynne Weaver's focus for this book. But one of my hangups has been like, she was so sloppy, right? She's definitely going to get caught. And then the more I looked into this stuff, I was like,
maybe not.
Maybe not. Yeah. Like the way that this all worked out, maybe not.
Well, and Matthew Cranwell's never going to admit that his attacker was a woman.
Oh, I know,
no.
right? It's like he's weird double-edged sword for her, because it's like he's never going to let this go, but then he's also never going to admit
that's who it was.
to anybody else.
I do
right?
think if he saw her alone, he would try to kill her.
100%. Like, he's going to try to take care of this himself. He's not going to involve anybody else. Yeah. So he's not going to like turn her in, I don't think, because then he would give himself
he'd
away.
expose himself. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, that was a super interesting deep dive into this like underwater
really
crime
cool.
scene
I
stuff.
think you should read Marrow. You'd really like it.
Yeah, I probably would.
It's pretty dark, but I mean, isn't all of this?
Well, that was my deep dive. The
Great
end.
work. You dove deep. You did
Did you share, Mindy, your chapter MVP?
Yeah, it was Rose.
Okay, so you guys just need to share your secondary characters, because mine was Sloane
yours was
and
together.
Lark
Yeah.
together.
So my favorite secondary was Rose, but actually is the Sparrow for
Oh, yeah.
saving Naomi's life. Naomi, the nurse at the hospital, tells Rose that she did everything for her and that she's so appreciative. And the book says that Naomi has a glow and seems to breathe easier. And I just think it's really awesome that she gets to start over and have the life she deserves. And, she gets to thank the Sparrow for her hard work.
I do wish we had a little bit more of their conversation originally, though, because I thought that the conversation as the Sparrow was still Rose telling Naomi what she can do to help her.
Oh, I didn't get
Do you know
that.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, it probably was, but because I feel like this whole getting in the truck thing that
was spur of the moment.
definitely spur of the moment. So I think initially it was gonna be, here, I'll do what I normally
I'll help
do,
you
give
out
you
with
some
this, yeah.
poison, and I'll
maybe she
Guilia
did. I don't know.
Tofana that shit. But but
That's going to be a phrase.
I know, I love it.
Put that on the t-shirt.
But And so ultimately, though, that it
Right.
is what it ended up
She
being.
took care of it.
But yeah, you're right. It would have been nice to have a little bit more of that conversation.
Clarity.
Yeah.
But anyway, who was your secondary character, Mindy?
Honorable mention to Granzy, because girl died on her tarot deck and now is attached to it somehow, which I think is so crazy.
I was trying to figure out how to put that in my 30-second.
I know. Yeah, that was a very Supernatural of the
Yes.
like the TV show Supernatural
Yes.
of like, well, she's attached to this object that you'd have to burn the object. You got to burn her bones and all that. Yeah.
Yep. It totally felt supernatural to me. But I just, shout out to my girl Barbara. Good on her for turning her drug-addled life around and finding a stable job performing with poodles. Okay, good girl.
Props. Props to Barbara.
She turned her life around too. I love that journey.
Everyone
for her.
deserves a second chance.
Yes, but it did get me thinking about like animal acts and how they can really exploit the animals and be kind of unsafe and cruel. And I didn't realize that it has really only been a recent development that animal welfare has even been considered for animals in entertainment.
Really?
Yeah. As of 2023, there are only 8 states that have banned or restricted animal use in traveling circuses. And it's all the ones you would think, like the California, Hawaii, New York, all the, ones
Blue. The blue states.
So the true blues. So yeah, I thought that was kind of odd, but even so, today's acts are far more tame than some of the ones in the past. So
this is going to be a ride. I can tell.
It's something.
It's an emotional roller coaster.
So, for instance, in the 1900s, a very popular attraction was bear wrestling.
Oh.
But not bear on bear violence. No. This was trainer wrestling a bear, and sometimes they would invite someone from the audience to fight the bear for a cash prize.
Oh my gosh.
But don't worry about them, because the really inhumane thing was that the bear's claws and teeth would be surgically removed.
Aw, a bear could still fuck you up, though.
I mean,
Oh, totally. Yeah.
just squeeze you to death.
It could
they don't need
manhandle you
claws.
pretty bad. But yeah.
Oh,
So
that's horrible.
like, okay, that sounds like not entertainment. But
The
whatever.
guys that might have died from that might have deserved it.
I think you're right.
It's like, I'm gonna tackle a fucking bird.
Yeah.
But bear humiliation didn't end in the 1900s. One bear act lasted until well into the 2000s.
Oh my.
And this was bear ice skating.
Oh.
They would force a bear to wear a costume and ice skates and parade around awkwardly on the ice. And as recently as 2009, this was still being performed. And in one case, the bear skated over to a circus administrator and mauled him.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's
And
not funny. I'm sorry.
And it isn't, but then at the same time, okay, so CNN reports that, and this is a quote, "It is unclear what caused the bear to attack." Well, I
Probably
could wager
wear a
a guess.
costume and ice skate.
captivity and being
I
forced to
think I
ice
could
skate.
figure that out. Yeah.
That's
So-
not funny, but the image in my head right now of a
Exactly.
bear in a tutu just
Yes.
like gliding
Well,
over.
But in the background, it's going.
I mean, golly,
Yeah.
what a horrible,
Yeah. Which,
horrible way to go.
Which,
frankly.
when you think about it, like, okay, that's where they were coming from in entertainment.
Right.
But, like, really, like, think about this. This is crazy. So the next one, I think you can pretty much figure out how this one's going to end. It's called the Lion Drome. So this is a motorbike show like the one that Rose does. These became very popular during the 1930s. But, someone always has to say, hold my beer. And this person said, how about we put a sidecar on the motorcycle and put a lion in it? So, and then they can go 80 miles per hour around this track along a wall, and the wall shall be called the Wall of Death.
Whoa.
And that lion's not going to get freaked out and attack anyone.
Absolutely not.
Right.
And honestly, it probably happened so much that later the spectacle evolved into live lions chasing the motorbikes and swiping at them.
So gladiator shit.
Yes, exactly.
We're in the Coliseum.
That's terrible.
Surprisingly, this whole setup, these lion drums were used up until 1964, when a particular incident halted the performances. Apparently, an intoxicated circus worker stuck his hand in the lion's cage and got a free amputation.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff I'm like, what percentage of these decisions was stupidity? What
I'm telling
percentage
you.
was arrogance?
It's
you know
whole-
what I
it's-
mean?
I think there's
Yeah,
a whole
yeah.
lot of that would never happen to me.
Yeah,
I work
I
with
mean,
this
it's
animal
just-
every day.
Ugh.
Well, and I think too, in the entertainment industry in general, You're always trying to find, like, outdo yourself, the next big thing. I'm going to be better than this guy.
It's a spectacle.
So at that point, you know, this is what they had as far as entertainment. So what are we going to do to get more audiences to our circus as opposed to someone else's circus?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's right or
wise.
anything. Yeah. So that was.
There's a lot of things that have been legal in the past that aren't right.
Exactly.
Sure, yeah.
Currently.
Well,
even.
but just like common sense.
Yeah.
Right? Like putting yourself in a cage with a motorcycle and a lion is dumb. You know what I mean? Like, just let's think through this a little bit.
We've already figured out in this episode that in a moment of weakness or passion, you think about being dirty and the rest of us don't. So, not all of us think clearly.
Those lions are so unsanitary.
No, but Whitney's going to be like, dude, don't put your hand in there. It'll bite you. And I'll be like, nuh-uh. And then I lose my hand.
They wouldn't do it if it was dangerous.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So a couple more. This next one's called A Geek Show, and such a weird name. But, you know, in today's politically incorrect vocabulary, the term geek means so many other things. But in this instance, it means a circus freak with a very specific talent, ? Not sure that's the correct term. So they would bite the heads off of live animals, usually chickens or snakes, and drink their blood. And the idea behind this whole geek show was to scare people into thinking that they too could become freaks because the performers were otherwise considered completely, quote, normal.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, how about that?
Neat. I don't even know what to say.
I know. Yeah, that's just, And
That's a weird.
period.
I agree with that. Like, I don't think that's a talent.
Yeah, like what?
I also think there
think it's
are
a
a
mental
lot
illness.
of blood-borne illnesses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you're not
that's
supposed to do that.
Again, it's germy. It's not. It's not wise.
I can't say I've never been so excited about something that I've bitten the head off something and drank its blood.
No.
You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to happen.
But
either.
for our listeners, I did send a little video to the girls today where a chick was at Coachella with her best friend and she had her on like one of those like toddler leashes and her friend keeps trying to run off and she'll just pull her back.
She had fairy wings
and I'm
on
like,
it.
oh, this is how it is going places with me.
Yeah.
So I did save the best for last. This one is a little more funny. So this one's called ferret legging.
Oh.
Well, that's it for a second. It got popular through the 1970s, and this act involved shoving a live ferret down the performer's pants. And there's rules, of course, right? So number one, the pants had to be big enough so that the ferret could move around freely. Number two, pants had to be tied at the ankle so the ferret couldn't escape out the bottom.
Oh, where's the fun in that?
Number three, there was no underwear allowed, of course.
Oh, so you just want the ferret to suck your dick? Is that
Maybe,
what we're doing here?
maybe.
Wow, Whitney. That escalated quickly.
Whitney's like, put the oversexed one in my pants.
Does it know how to suck?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Man, we're learning a lot about Whitney today.
The final rule was the ferret had to have fully functional claws and teeth. So at least they didn't like surgically remove those. But
great.
they line them all up and do this, and the last man standing is the winner.
What do you mean the last man standing? If you don't take your pants off and stop the
Get
ferret?
out, yeah.
Or like if the ferret mauls your genitals. Like, what does that mean?
Yes.
The one who keeps the ferret in their pants the longest.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that is just really
I would
something.
just put like some candy down in the leg of my pants or something.
Like way down by your ankle.
Cake down there that'll last 5 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, circus acts.
I'm really happy to not be a part of that.
I think Barbara and her poodles sound a little more
Yeah, that was a good choice.
humane. Yeah.
Although I don't really see how a raccoon wouldn't attack the poodles.
Yeah.
But I mean, Barbara is living in the trailer, so apparently she's not fucking too much stuff up.
Yeah.
she's a little bit.
detoxed.
She does immediately hiss at Fionn though, which I love.
I know that was the best. Barbara's my favorite.
Yeah. Well, what questions do we have that need to be resolved?
Mine already said, what the fuck did Fionn do while he was away from Rose when he was with Rowan? Like,
Yeah.
we get like Rowan's point of view in that, but like, what did Fionn do on the way? What was he thinking? What was he thinking when he came back to Rose? Like, what were those little things we didn't see from Rowan's point of view? Like, I feel like it was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, one of my questions, piggybacking off of that, is just I'm curious about some of Bryn Weaver's choices for some of those scenes. So exactly what you said, like, why do we not get a Fionn point of view when he's with Rowan instead of a Rose point of view? Like, I've been saying this, I think.
Rose didn't do anything. She watched a movie and ordered room service.
Yeah, she was like just stressing out about it, and that was it, right?
But for me, it also wasn't very much in character for her to be like, sure, I'll stay here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's like the last section too. Like, why do we not get a Rose point of view when Rowan and Sloane show up? Like, there are several chapters so far where I feel like you say, it's a missed opportunity for me as a reader. Like, I want to know what Fionn experienced in that with his brother and worrying about his brother. And like, it's just odd to me to make that choice. And I'm curious as to the reasoning behind it. I feel like
there could have been more tie-ins too. Like, we could have seen a little bit more of the dynamic where, you know, he feels like he's got to act a certain way around his brothers or whatever. Right. Like, I think it's not like it would have been...
It would have been character developing,
yes,
for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. And the only other question I wrote down is, are all the police in these cases bad at their jobs?
Yes. Yes, they are.
Nothing points to Rose yet. Especially with the fence jumper guy who, I mean, I know that they're like trying to stage that to be just like a weird mistake, but
yeah. Well, I mean, it is a weird mistake.
It is a weird mistake, but that just seemed really weird to me that nobody is going to come ask any questions.
Think about living in Bardstown, right?
Well,
and
yeah.
You know, the guy or girl in town who's like always on meth and running around doing crazy shit. If you read in the paper that they tripped and impaled themselves on a fence, you'd be like, yeah, okay.
Well, yes, but also if my house was in sight of where and when that happened, they would probably come knock on my door.
The
good news,
they
though,
would probably
is
come ask me about
50
it.
houses are right there, so that's the good thing. It doesn't put too much heat on her.
It's just kind of weird,
and the circus isn't going to rat her out. They take care of her own.
True.
Yeah, but
I do wonder how often at these things, like, because if you think about traveling circus, and if there's alcohol, people tend to get pretty stupid, and they're like barfing on rides and doing all this shit. Like, how often? And if there's anyone who listens that has ever worked with a circus, I do want to know this. How often is there a dead body or a trip to the emergency room or something like that? Kidding. Is it the emergency room? Is that daily? Right, how often do you catch people fucking in the haunted house? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how often does this happen?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good question. Maybe that can be a future deep dive. We need the stats of this.
You know, I'm really good at math.
Did you share your question?
No, a little bit piggybacking on yours. What confused me a little bit, like, I want to know what the fuck is up with the timeline for when Lark tells Rose about Sloane and Rowan breaking up.
And then that's it.
And then it seems off because I feel like Lark talked to Sloane, and then Sloane took kind of a longish time to decide she wasn't going to accept that shit. Mm-hmm. Like, and she got dressed up and I did. Okay, full disclosure, I did not go back and read that scene to try to like match it up.
I mean, it's probably at least 2 to 3 hours, I would say, from the time that he calls Sloane to break up to the time that Lachlan goes in for cleanup, I would say is 2 hours.
Right, but so how long did Lark wait to tell
Rose?
Right. Rose, because Fionn already knows right after Lark texts Rose, because he calls her right after that. And I did reread that part to make sure that there wasn't more time. It just didn't sit right for me. So I was like, what? Does she not make her little murder board for that? Because that seems weird.
I think that when in Butcher and Blackbird, I think too that when Sloane is telling Lark, like, he just broke up with me, Lark is very much like, no, something's off, wrong about this. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Oh yeah, because Lark's the one that's like, what exactly did he say?
Yes, and then but this text to Rose is like, that motherfucker. And that's a very different vibe than what that conversation is with Sloane.
It was almost like she texted Rose while she was still talking to Sloane. You know, like
immediately.
Yeah, like oh my God, she's telling me this is happening, and then she goes through that whole thought. To me, that's kind of how it felt like. But then, why would Fionn text her right at it's
the timing with Fionn doesn't make sense.
It's off. So like that made me scratch my head a little bit. And the only other thing is, I still want to know. And we talked a little bit about this, more about VR and the story behind that, and the tattoo,
the initials. Yeah. Give me specifics. Yeah.
So,
what about what we're looking forward to?
You know, I didn't get to say my favorite quote.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
For shame.
I'm looking forward to hearing what your favorite quote is.
Same. That's what I put in my notes.
There's two that I just really, really enjoyed. I love when Rose is talking about when she sees Fionn. She says, "We gave the creepy corn people of the Prairie Princess Campground a fun soundtrack as I blew him on my RV bed and he screamed my name." I think that was right before she left.
I'm picturing that RV, though, not having any air conditioning.
Oh,
I know,
trust
me too.
He was screaming because he was hot.
Help me.
Get off me.
And not in the good way. But then the other one I really liked is when she says, "I think there's a bad man in this good doctor," and I like it.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
I like that.
So what are we looking forward to?
Well, I just said. Mindy's
Quotes.
My
Yeah.
quotes.
I really want to see Barbara's circus act.
Oh, that would be great. Me
Only
too.
if she's treated well.
Yes,
Right?
she please don't put any
Fairly-
lions in there.
Fairly compensated for
Don't stick her down
work.
someone's pants or anything.
She'd probably like
She
it.
probably would.
What are
She
you
would
looking
go
forward
to town on someone's nuts.
She would, yeah. What are you looking forward to, Mindy?
Just more anything. I just want more.
That is exactly what I said.
Yeah.
I am hopeful for more, is what I said. I'm more real conversations between Rose and Fionn where they're more vulnerable and open with each other, more tension and build up, more Sloane and Rowan, and more Lachlan and Lark.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
I just need a little more.
There were a lot of things that I really liked in this section that
Me too.
I want more of.
Yes, exactly.
Is there anything else about this section that we haven't covered? Mm-mm. All right. Well, next week we'll be discussing Scythe and Sparrow, Confection Through Haunted.
These are going to get real crazy.
It's going to be a crazy conversation next week.
Yes.
So make sure you stay tuned. And don't forget our Tuesday episodes with author interviews and nerdy topics. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Like what you heard in this episode? Follow Our Nerdiest Thing on Instagram at instagram.com/Our Nerdiest Thing or Facebook at facebook.com/Our Nerdiest Thing. We love hearing from fellow nerds. Email us at ournerdiestthing@gmail.com.